Hi, everyone. My name is Nathan Bowlin. I'm a senior product marketing manager here at BigPanda. And today we're going to be talking about incident correlation. I want to introduce the person that you're actually here to hear from, and it's Tal Kane. Tal is the VP and General Manager of L1 Agent and AI Detection and Response here at BigPanda. Tall joined BigPanda through our acquisition of Velocity, his startup, the AI-powered SRE company, back in November, and he's here to accelerate our leadership in agentic IT operations. Before founding Velocity, Tall held numerous leadership roles at several successful startups, including companies acquired by Oracle, Variant, and PSG. Welcome, Tall.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Great. So today we're going to be talking about incident correlation, but before we jump into that, we're going to get started with a bit of history around alert correlation, the real problem it was built to solve, and then jump into how incident correlation can fill some of the new opportunities that have been coming up with enterprises across the IT space. That being said, let's get started. So let's start with the beginning, Tall. Before we talk about where we are now and the new solutions that we've built, what was the actual problem that Big Panda was built to solve?
Yeah, so I think that the story behind Big Panda started from the idea that companies have multiple alerting systems that all of them are basically sending multiple alerts. And in some cases, companies have Zabbix, Dynatrace, Grafana, even multiple instances of the same product in their company. And all of these alerts are basically being sent out to multiple different dashboards that the NOC have to see all this data to be able to understand the current incident and to try to solve it. Now, think about it is this NOC sitting in front of multiple dashboards, this tsunami of alerts coming in, and they have to correlate using the knowledge, tribal knowledge, all these alerts into what is actually happening. Now, Big Panda, Asaf Resnick and Elik Eisenberg basically identify this problem. Say, hey, you know what? What happens if we aggregate all these alerts? We try to deduplicate them into one incident that all these alerts are actually talking about the same incident, normalize it. So instead of looking at five, six different dashboards, you have just one dashboard that correlate all these alerts, deduplicate them, reduce the amount of noise that you're seeing, and actually gives you one point for where you need to actually focus on. Now, this problem still exists in a lot of companies, and even through acquisitions or different organizations that are self-sustained, all these systems have to be correlated into one place so the NOC can be efficient. And that's kind of like this tsunami of alerts is still a problem to many companies. And the first line of defense for that was the Big Panda event intelligence for being able to correlate all these alerts into smaller amount of incidents.
I think that when it comes to alert correlation, it does help fix the noise, but there's another problem that we often talk about and hear from customers is that despite this, there's still blind spots, right? Can you walk us through what they mean by these blind spots and what does that look like on a day-to-day for a lot of these knock teams that we work with?
So I think that the blind spot is coming from the idea that even when I'm looking at a certain incident, I might coming from the prism of, hey, I am actually the storage team and I am looking for problems that are related specifically to me. Now, when I'm looking at the problem of a storage team, I am not looking at other problems that might be related to basically my environment. But if I can actually see the different incidents that are related to other systems, and there is an opportunity to basically correlate all of them into the same storyline, suddenly I have better visibility for what is actually happening in the system. Now, in our case, for example, if I am part of the database team or if I am part of the backend team, I will be escalated, and team A in the website team will be escalated, and the database team will also be escalated. Now, all these correlations, if I understood while I'm in the backend team that the database team is actually the right one, I will basically communicate with the right team instead of just jumping into a sort of problem. Now, this is actually happening regardless of the L1, regardless of the knock. The L2s and L3s are getting multiple alerts, multiple incidents, and if they don't have the right context, they might basically waste time or run in parallel to to other teams without really knowing that, hey, you know what, we're actually working on the same problem together. We should collaborate.
I think from listening from to your calls with customers and talking to a lot of customers myself, a lot of these, we correlate alerts into single incidents, but there are multiple incidents happening at the same time. And in reality, they're not happening in their own silos. They're all related somehow, especially if a lot of the applications and services, like you talked about, are sharing, common infrastructure like database, storage, network, et cetera. They're not working in silos. They're actually happening all at the same time and related some way or another. And
Yeah.
what is the real cost? Like when you talk to a lot of these customers, what's the real cost that you're seeing that they're expressing in terms of pains that they're feeling from a business standpoint?
Yeah, so I think that it's connected to two main areas from my point of view. The first area is around how many team members do I need to have online in order to handle this tsunami of alerts and tsunami of incidents coming in? That's the first part of it. The second part of it is how do I make sure that that I basically hit my SLA and I keep my system up and running in the level of agreement in front of my customers. Now, I won't be able to name this customer specifically, but we do see multiple cases where different knock teams are getting alerts on their specific areas. Each one of them is escalating these alerts into different teams. And in every team, they basically go and jump on these incidents and start investigating. And eventually, all these teams are actually getting to the same incident or the same root cause that is actually focused on just one team. So, from my point of view, like three knocks, three people escalate to three different teams that are unrelated, that are jumping on three different incidents. There is a lot of waste of time that can be used for either building or fixing other problems and eventually shortening the time for what is the actual root cause. So I think it's both on the amount of people that you need but also the SLA and the MTTR specifically.
Right. I think in the pre-work we talked a lot about how at the end of the day it's as simple as a coordination effort. You're having multiple people work on the same essentially at the end of the day, the same incident, and this is such a resource drain. And it's kind of repetitive because people are just working on duplicative work that could just be that could be centered on one team that needs to actually work on that relative to three different teams that may be partially related, correct?
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Yeah. So that's alert correlation and a lot of the challenges that we're seeing with people who come and talk to Big Panda today. Let's move on to incident correlation. Tal, can you explain to us what incident correlation is and how it actually changes how it addresses the challenges that we just spoke about?
Yeah, so think about it as when you get alerts that are actually get deduplicated into incidents. We have customers that have millions of millions of alerts coming in that are being deduplicated into small amount of incidents. But still, this number of incidents, a knock team have to jump on each incident and basically handle this. So if we can correlate even further, do the same thing that we did in alert correlation and deduplicate incidents, correlating them in a context that is focused enough on the problem, suddenly all these three teams that I just mentioned can actually be just one team. If you can correlate all these incidents into just one cluster of incidents, and the team is having this visibility of like, okay, this is the cluster. These are all the incidents coming from all these different alerts actually correlated to each other. I could just send it directly to the right team and free up basically the rest of the teams. Now, this can happen in multiple layers of the process because if the L1, if the knock is identifying that the incident correlation is actually mapping just one team, instead of escalating into three different teams, I can just escalate it to one team. On the other end, on the layer two, if three different teams that are currently handling incidents identifies that they are correlating to other teams, they might decide to collaborate and fix the problem together. So a lot of coordination, a lot of opportunities to correlate, a lot of opportunities to work together, and eventually be able to sustain higher loads of incidents coming in.
Yeah, I think the coordination piece is really important. The path to root cause is a lot clearer with incident correlation. We brought you joined BigPanda, and we've been making a shift to agentic IT ops. Can you talk about how agentic technology has helped improve the accuracy of incident correlation, and how it differs from alert correlation?
So I think that the story around the Gen AI approach to incident correlation is the ability to do reinforcement learning and actually make the system learn not just from a general way of solving the problem, but actually learning from the data coming from all these alerts, all these systems that our customers are connecting to the Big Panda platform. And then when we are correlating incidents, when we are correlating alerts, we can leverage this knowledge, we can leverage this understanding of the system in order to let the system correlate better and improve the correlation system and algorithm as the data flows in. Now, in addition to that, because our customers are huge enterprises, we also have some experts coming from Big Panda interviewing the customer, sitting with the customer as part of the incident lifecycle assessment. And from these learnings, we can push this data into the AI brain, the ITKG of Big Panda, the IT knowledge graph, which allows the agentic workflows of Big Panda to further correlate and do this more specifically for the customer without having this onboarding of 7 to 8 months. It can actually automatically learn and improve with no human in the loop in this case. And that's exciting. That's something that comes together with the mix of all the things built that were built in Big Panda, in addition to the use of Gen AI and LLMs in general.
I think that's a really important part about the constant learning and evolution, because this is happening alongside it as an enterprise grows their applications and services, right? They're not going to just stop then and there. They're constantly thinking about how do we improve our services? How do we add more services to improve the overall customer experience of whoever their end users are? And with incident
Yeah.
correlation, we're constantly evolving and learning so that we can understand their environment better and in order to help them um, resolve or improve first contact resolution, as we like to say, for the L1s.
And I think we're also moving into the world where rule-based system is being used to augment the agentic workflow, but we're evolving from the rule-based engine into the Gen AI, LLM-based decisions, the AI-based decisions that not just get better and not decay from something that is completely static, but is actually learning and doing even better than what we originally thought about.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that alert correlation is still very, very important in all of this, right? Because it is the base layer of
100%.
incident correlation. And like you said, with the things that we're doing with incident correlation, it is still building on a strong foundation that we've built with alert correlation. So that's really
I
important to highlight.
I think that the idea of being able to do this alert correlation using the existing rules, building the flows, and making sure that that can actually be handled in high scale, in addition to the overlay of Gen AI, is the thing that allows companies to have better correlation, both alert correlation, incident correlation, and eventually also the ticket assignment and ticket resolution that can come on top of all these layers from the Big Panda platform.
Yeah, I think that's really important to highlight. That's some great context about, what's happening behind the scenes with alert correlation versus instant correlation and the foundation that we're building there. I know you talk to a lot of customers and a lot of customers are starting to use incident correlation. What does this look like for them? Can you give us a specific example?
Yeah, so I think that the story around what it means for them to do incident correlation is in some companies, they have such a short SLA that everything that you can put in front of their eyes, part of their cockpit, for doing the investigation is accelerating the process and can shorten the time that it takes them to solve the problem. Some of organizations have compliance or regulations that requires them to handle incident in a certain time span. So every minute that they are saving from the process is actually giving them the opportunity to make sure that they are not either missing other incidents that they need to jump on with the current size of the team, but at the same time, they will never go and have to report on compliance issues because they didn't handle the incident fast enough. Now, in our organizations, we're seeing them getting incidents, looking at the correlation, getting enough context for the human, the L1 knock a operator to basically look at the information and make decisions. But going forward, we also see the opportunities for using this incident correlation for agents, the L1 agents, to look at these correlations and leverage that for decisions making based on agentic workflows. So there is even another step after incident correlation that we can further not just do the triage, but actually take actions upon it. But that's based on all the alert correlation and incident correlation that gives the agent enough context to go and act upon all this context for the incident itself.
I know we talk a lot about the L1s and how this benefits the L1s, but how does it benefit the L2 or the
That's a
higher
fan-
up engineers that
yeah.
eventually at some point in past history had to deal with these incidents?
So I think that the main complaint that we hear from L2s is that they're missing context. In some
Mhm.
cases, the context of the tickets is actually forcing them to do a deeper research of every incident because they didn't have enough context. So the ground that they're starting from is not high enough for them to do just their job. So I think that the concept of saying, hey, you know what? We're doing this incident correlation. We correlate incidents. We give augmentation on top of the alerts. We're using summary based on the AI, but not just summarization of AI. It's actually using the incident correlation and other capabilities that exist in Big Panda and push that directly into the tickets of the L2. You're starting from a much better milestone or checkpoint. We don't need to go back and start from the ground up looking at the raw information. And from the L2, that's an expensive a role from our point of view, from our customers' point of view. So they try to minimize as much as possible the time that L2s are spending on tickets. And even further from that, like if you're thinking about the engineers that are sitting behind the scene, if engineers have to jump on tickets, suddenly they're moving from building into firefighting. And as you can imagine, engineers prefer to build and not, jump on alerts in the middle of the night. So I think that the idea and the ability to have this cockpit like a pilot basically sitting and looking, here's my incident, here are all the alerts that got deduplicated into this incident, here are the other incidents that I need to be aware of while I'm investigating my incident, here are the other team members that might be related, that I might need to collaborate with. is actually giving me the option to run faster. And that's where the L2s and even the L3s are getting value from incident correlation.
Right. It definitely avoids the problem of having to redo the work that the L1 was not able to do now. The L1 is supercharged, which we like to say a lot. They get the context that they need. Hopefully, they are able to resolve it themselves. But in the case that it doesn't, that's not the case. When they escalate, the L2, the L3, and above get all the context that they need, so they don't have to do the duplicative work, redo the investigation, redo the triage. Everything that they need is there, so that they can go straight into the resolution, and then get back to building, which is what they like to do, as you said.
It's always about the context. It's always about the, do I have enough context? Is it accurate? Do I trust the AI in this case? There's also
Hmm.
a process of moving from I got something from the AI to I trust the AI. And I feel
Right.
like this concept of saying, I get the context, it's summarized, I can have the ability to evaluate the AI. I can be, I um, there is explainability for why the AI chose to do something, and in a very short and focused way that I can read while I'm in the middle of the night in these 15 minutes of SLA. This is the magic that we are after here in Big Panda.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. I know we've been talking about incident correlation a lot. I think this would be a great opportunity, Tal, for you to showcase what it looks like in the product, and see what people can see in incident correlation.
Sounds good. So let me share my screen on my environment. And for those of you who didn't have the chance to see the Big Panda platform before, I keep telling people that it feels like an email inbox, basically. Like I'm looking at all these incidents instead of seeing, like, hey, you won a prize. It's actually an incident that I need to handle. Now, in every incident here in this list of incidents, I have a how many alerts got correlated. So you can see here the amount of alerts got correlated to each one of them. What is the current priority for this specific incident? And if I click on one of them, let's say I'm going for the this one, you can actually see that I'm getting here all the information from what we call the AI analysis. But the thing that I would like to focus on today is actually the incident correlation. If I look here on this one, I can see that we are actually identifying that there is a critical Azure network interface cards failure on this host specifically. And we see that there are multiple other incidents that are coming specifically on this one. Now, you can see here that some of them actually came 8 minutes ago. Some of them came 31 minutes ago. Some of them came 2 days ago. And you know what? There's even 30 days ago in some cases. Now, this context of me being able to say, you know what, here is the incident that is correlated to the thing that I'm currently researching, and the LLM or the AI in this case is actually explaining to me why it believed that it's actually correlated, allow me to have the explainability for why I believe this incident and the other incident is actually correlated. Now, if I want to actually see this in an easier way, because this is a list of 10 different incidents that are related to each other, I can actually go ahead and see this in a correlation graph where I literally have all the incidents in a way that shows me which one is connected to what is the correlation between them and how they are connected. So some of the incidents, as you can see here, is actually coming from the network. Each one of them is actually, I can see here the information, critical Azure network interface card failure on this one. I can look at another one for the sake of discussion. We're seeing that actually there is another one. This is 2C, and the other one is 31. All of them are actually connected to the incident that I just looked at. And this one specifically is the critical database connection error. It's actually coming from the data platform. And if I go to the application, I can actually see here that there is another one talking specifically on the pods, which means that from my point of view, I have all the visibility to understand how the current incident that I'm looking at is actually connected to the rest of the environment. Maybe I will see here which teams are focused on every incident, and I can jump and communicate with all the other um, res- uh, 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 teams that are responsible for the other components that I'm currently looking at. Now, another thing that I would like to show is some of our customers are not just leveraging specifically BigPanda, they are actually leveraging ServiceNow. So I have here a direct link into ServiceNow. And the same thing that I just showed you here directly in BigPanda, I can also jump into the tab here of a BigPanda agent inside ServiceNow, and I can see this correlation directly into my ServiceNow. So same information that I just presented, and also the same cluster that I just presented directly into ServiceNow. So for me, as the NOC, and in some cases even the L2, I have the visibility for what is surrounding me while I'm investigating this incident specifically. And that's, for me, a lot of context as part of the cockpit that I'm having for this environment.
Yeah, I think that's a great overview. I think at least for me, when this was being developed, the component of instant correlation that really helped users is the topographical visualization that you provided. Because oftentimes, looking at all these incident numbers and related infrastructures, especially for somebody who's newer to an environment, is hard to see. And that topographical visualization really showcases the direct links from one node to another, which is really helpful. Thank you so much, Tal, for your time today. We really got some great context about alert correlation, the problem alert correlation solved, and where we're moving next with incident correlation and how that helps with coordination, the scalability of enterprises, and overall collaboration and the ability to resolve incidents and understand what's going on with an incident faster. If you have any more questions or curious about next steps, we have a couple links here where you can learn more about incident correlation and actually see it live, a more in-depth demo from what you saw with Tal today. And then we can also start getting you on a call with a sales engineer to start working on how we can get this into your environment in the near future. That being said, thank you so much, Tal, for your time and sharing your insights. And we look forward to seeing everybody at the next webinar.
Thank you, Nathan. See you in the next one.